6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. We are a few seconds away from the start of this great webinar, where we have industry experts, leader in the industries that will talk to us about artificial intelligence. So it's going to be a very exciting moment. It's actually 4 o'clock, so we are ready to start. We will just wait a couple of more seconds to make sure that everyone has joined in, and then we will be able to start. So just a few more seconds. At 4:01, we will be able to start. Just for the late joiners. All right. It's quite an interesting topic. I see Rosella, Joanna, quite happy to be able to explain more about artificial intelligence. So it's going to be a very interesting, enthusiastic topic and discussion today. So it's actually 4:01. We are able to start. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Welcome to today's webinar. The topic we will cover is how artificial intelligence is changing recruitment now and in the future. We will cover, how artificial intelligence is already, being used in many industries in recruitment, and give you interesting use cases and examples to better explain everything. So just to start, let me explain for the people that do not know what Skilled is about. Skilled is an all-in-one software gathering all the best practices of recruitment in one simple-to-use software. The mission of Skilled is to digitalize and automate all the first steps of the recruitment process to be able to give the best candidate experience, but also, help recruiters save time, but also hire the best people faster thanks to artificial intelligence. We integrate modules such as pre-recorded video interview, personality assessment, but we will be able to cover this slightly later. So not too much about Skilled. I would like to present our speakers, today's speakers. So my name is Nicholas. I feel ashamed to present myself first, but this is what I've been told. My name is Nicholas. I'm actually one of the founder at Skilled and managing partner. We have Rosella from Wonderlic, which is one of our trusted partner. Rosella is the director of innovation and AI at Wonderlic. Wonderlic is a company that provides business and schools with comprehensive library of highly regarded assessments and surveys for each phase of the hiring and selection process. Rosella is obviously passionate about and a very visionary thought leader in the field of artificial intelligence. So we're very lucky to have her. She has many years of experience in the industry. And the second person joining today is actually Joanna. Joanna is responsible for all data science and artificial intelligence researchers we're making at Skilled. So we're extremely lucky also to have her insights today on the topic. So obviously, Joanna is not only an expert in artificial intelligence, but also machine learning, natural language processing, data analysis, and visualization. So Rosella, Joanna, thanks a lot for being here today. We're very grateful.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Great. To start, I would like to explain and highlight what will be the key takeaways of this webinar. It's quite important. First of all, to know what is artificial intelligence. The second takeaway will be the top way AI is currently impacting the recruitment landscape. The third point is more about the prediction for the future. We will give you very insightful elements and data regarding what is coming next, and obviously giving you practical advice for the most for the implementation of AI technology within your organizations. So I hope everyone is ready to be part of this webinar. So I just wanted to start, regarding AI adoption, which is rapidly growing. I think, we live in a world where AI is more present than ever. Giving you a couple of statistics, already 77% of devices we use feature one form of AI or another. I mean, this is, quite amazing to see such a staggering number. 13% of recruiters say that AI is already a regular part of HR. And the third point is AI can increase business productivity by 40%. And we are only at the beginning of this revolution. This is what is so exciting about it. And we are extremely happy to cover this. I wanted to mention, and this is very important, is, we have a Q&A box within next to on the side. So feel free to ask, and I'm talking about, the attendant of this webinar. Feel free to ask questions. I mean, at the end, we will take those questions and we will answer as much as possible. Technical question, non-technical questions. Don't hesitate to challenge us a bit on the topic. We love it. All right. So to the next one, what is artificial intelligence? And I would like to hear a bit the voice of Rosella about this to explain us more. The floor is yours, Rosella.
Absolutely, with pleasure. So we can define artificial intelligence as the ability of machines to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. In other words, artificial intelligence is the science and engineering of developing computer systems that are able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perceptions, speech recognition, planning, optimization, decision-making, translation between languages, and so on. AI is not new. As a matter of fact, the founding event is considered the Dartmouth Conference that took place in 1956. So AI is almost 70 years old. During that conference, the term artificial intelligence was coined. It didn't exist as a word. And it was defined as the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. Since then, there has been an explosion of research in the field, partially because although artificial intelligence is primarily a subfield of computer science, it's also a very multidisciplinary field that takes inspiration from many different domains. It's important to understand that artificial intelligence is not one specific technology, but it's rather a spectrum of methods that go from very simple statistical methods, those that we study in high school or at the very beginning of the Statistics 101 kind of course, but it goes all the way to very advanced mathematic and probabilistic methods. It's a large umbrella of mathematical, statistical, probabilistic, and computer science methods, as well as psychology principles. In fact, artificial intelligence takes a lot of methods, take inspiration from nature and the human brain, how the human brain works, like artificial neural networks or genetic algorithms, just to mention a couple. So, as I mentioned before, AI is not new. It's almost 70 years old. And over the course of these 70 years of research, AI, there have been different paradigms that dominated different eras. For example, starting in the 90s, the focus has increased more and more on seeing intelligence as learning. As I mentioned before, AI is the ability of making machines intelligent. So at the core of artificial intelligence, there is the question of what is intelligence? How can we codify intelligence? And machine learning perspective is intelligence is related to learning. So it has been the dominant paradigm, and it still is today, which is why very often the terms artificial intelligence and machine learning are used interchangeably. And the basic idea of machine learning is to learn from data, to observe patterns in the data and to generalize the concept that the data is that we are observing the data, which, if we think about it, it's exactly how we human beings learn a lot of the things that we learn. More recently, deep learning has gained a lot of momentum. Deep learning is nothing more than a special case of machine learning, and specifically a special case of a family of methods based on artificial neural networks. It's nothing more than very sophisticated artificial neural networks that, because of the sophistication that they're able to codify, allow to solve very difficult tasks, which is why today deep learning is such a hot topic. But as I mentioned before, AI goes from very simple.
Yeah, it's Rosella. It seems that you could really talk, hours or days about this. It's very, very, very insightful, and thanks for telling us a bit more where AI is coming from, where it started. It's nothing new, but some of the things have hugely changed in the recent months, years, especially the computing power and everything related to that, making it that we can do so much more with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. Great. I mean, what is artificial intelligence, Joanna? I think I would want to know more about it and hear a bit your thoughts on this.
Yes, like Rosella explained very well, there was a general sense of artificial intelligence first that was not achievable by the moment. And now we talk about narrow artificial intelligence, where there are lots of branches, different branches. I just took here 4 of these branches. I'm not putting here like computational creativity or evolutionary computation. I just brought this one and some examples in order for us to understand a bit more where artificial intelligence can be seen in these days. So machine learning, as Rosella says very well, is to confer machines the ability to learn by example using historical data. And you can see examples of machine learning everywhere, every day. But I just took some like pre-processing of resumes in recruitment, but also, for instance, filtering emails for spam. Or like categorizing images, for instance, or for instance, if you use an online translator from, let's say, English to French, English to whatever, we are using machine learning. Another very hot topic today is NLP, from natural language processing. Well, what NLP does is confer to machines the ability to understand, to process, to analyze, and to generate natural language. And the uses are, for instance, text disambiguation, again, the filtering of spam from emails, like speech recognition when you talk to a virtual assistant, for instance, or again, these online translators and these virtual assistants all make use of NLP.
Okay.
And another very important branch is robotics and automation, for instance. And I think that all of us have this image of this mechanical arm that has movements of precision and control, and that you can see, for instance, in the industry, in production lines. So examples would be, for instance, these robots that paint cars, or these robots that are in food packing systems. But also, these robots are able to do jobs and tasks where it's very dangerous for the human to be. Like, I don't know, work with melting iron, for instance, or even these rovers that went to Mars in space exploration is not only dangerous, it's impossible for now for a human to go there, okay? And finally, computer vision is another area or another branch or subset of AI where machines try to extract as much information as possible from images that can be still image or videos. And for instance, we can talk about human motion recognition. For instance, counting the steps in these health bands that everybody knows as one is an application of that. Or self-driving vehicles, or even facial recognition for biometrics, for security, or for entertainment, and very important medical diagnosis. So only very few examples of much more things we can talk about. That's
Wow.
it.
Yeah, it's really everywhere. It's and I think what is interesting is AI is in our everyday life. I think we shouldn't be worried about this. It's already the case. If we look at the big names in the industry there, everyone knows Siri. Siri is using artificial intelligence. Alexa, if you can think of Google Home, being able to control your home, from your voices and ask requests, but also Netflix, Spotify. I mean, looking at Netflix, when you're watching different kind of movies, there is artificial intelligence that is learning from your pattern and then giving you more elaborated recommendation. I mean, this is amazing to see that it's really already here. It's not something of the future. It's already the case. It's only there to stay and will go on more and more towards that direction. So if we talk about AI in recruitment, obviously, mainly, the impact of AI in recruitment started in early 2017. I mean, this is where we really see like a booming trend in the field, and that's very interesting, and it's really going and growing more and more. If you look at the statistics, 55% of HR managers see evidence of AI becoming a regular part of HR within the next 5 years. So it's really something that is in the mind of everyone, and HR leaders are really on the hunt for the best technology and where they can add value to recruitment, to HR in general. So this is something that is interesting, and there is AI powered solution for virtually every part of the recruitment funnel. So it's not only the recruitment, it's literally everything else as well. So it's and I would like to talk more about pre-screening of resume. This is something that maybe Joanna, you can elaborate a bit on. Could you talk a bit more about this and explain how it works?
Yeah, this pre-screening of resumes is something that is automated in the first stages of the recruitment pipeline. And basically, AI algorithm is making a decision or a prediction, let's say, and if rejecting a candidate or accepting it for further analysis. So this is a typical machine learning project. And as it is a typical machine learning process, I would say that the most important and most challenging part would be in building a data set of data from historical data that is labeled manually by recruiters and other human experts. And I think that's the thing that is really a challenge, is to have a data set that we're going to train our model that is fair and that is not biased and concentrates really on the competencies of the candidate and match against the competencies required by the job. So it is the part at Skill we offer this functionality, and is the part where you spend, I don't say hours, I don't say days, months, years. You are always working on that, trying also to incorporate international standards of knowledge, skills, educations, because it's very important for us, if you are going to have our algorithm to decide or to predict an exception or a rejection, that our data set is really, really fair and biased. So obviously that if these assumptions are true, if you have this data set that is really fair, we can of course predict much more efficiency, because it is a fast process. It requires less human resources. It prevents errors due to fatigue, and as it is more efficient, of course, it helps reducing the time to hire, and it helps giving a faster decision to candidates.
All right. Interesting. Thanks, Joanna, for sharing this. Moving to pre-employment assessments, it would be also interesting, Joanna, if you could share a bit more. How AI is using and how we can make use of pre-employment assessments in recruitment.
Yes, sure. Basically, these pre-assessment employments are very useful because they allow us to measure the candidate's aptitudes, the cultural fits, the soft skills, and in general, her abilities to go and to be succeed throughout a career. And Besides, they are unbiased and they give very valuable, unbiased information for the recruiter, will help the recruiter make better decisions. We are very happy at Skill to be partnership of Wonderlic, and indeed we integrate in our app pre-employment assessments from Wonderlic, but I think that probably Rosella will be the right person to.
Yeah, we will ask, but before starting, I would like to mention, we're receiving quite an amount of questions, but I know the subject is such an interesting one, so I definitely want to push on question. Please, guys, that are part of this webinar, ask your questions. I mean, we will be more than happy to answer them at the end of this webinar. And secondly, not everyone might be aware, but Rosella is actually sitting in Chicago. We have Joanna sitting in Portugal, where we have our R&D centers. So we can collaborate wherever we are in the world. But moving on, maybe Rosella, you can talk to us a bit more about pre-employment assessments and how Wonderlic is making use of it and serving thousands of customers. There's great technology.
Yeah, absolutely. As Joanna mentioned, Wonderlic's mission is to help organizations and hiring managers to find the best candidate for the specific job that they're opening. And we do that based on the fact that we know that each individual is characterized by a specific combination of cognitive skills, motivation, and personality. And we also know that each job requires a different combination of these three components. So what we offer through our product OneScore is the ability to test, analyze, and find insights in these three components of each candidate and seeing how they match to the specific job and the requirements for that job to maximize job performance in that role. We are using the latest industrial organizational research combined with ethical artificial intelligence within our engine to make sure that we can maximize the prediction power and to provide deep insights into profiles and actionable insights for the hiring managers. Not to sound too cheesy, but something that makes me particularly proud of being part of the Wonderlic family is that Wonderlic is an 80-year-old company that has always been a pioneer in the pre-employment assessment industry using data and statistical methods way before that machine learning and AI were such a big buzzword. So in some way, Wonderlic has been an AI-driven organization before the term AI was coined.
Yeah.
And I think that I find it very, very exciting and inspiring. And it was
you guys are yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the collaboration, to collaborate with an organization that pioneers in the area is something that we are learning from almost every day. It's what the work that you are doing is very inspiring as well. Helping dozens, hundreds, thousands of HR teams in the world. Great, thank you.
And likewise, I have to say, Skill is pushing the boundaries in an amazing way. So you're right, the partnership is a phenomenal opportunity to turbocharge the space of HR.
Thank you. If we're moving on and talk a bit about candidate ranking, obviously Wonderlic being in the core of the Skill platforms, deeply embedded. We are using the score of the personality to rank candidates. Maybe Joanna, you can explain a bit more about candidate ranking and how this is being used in currently.
Yes, indeed, candidate ranking is another machine learning problem. It's quite a bit different from pre-processing of resumes, because here we are not making any binary decision like to accept or reject a candidate, but you are categorizing this candidate. Is it good, fair, reasonable, good, very good, something like that, to simplify. And of course, in this in this step, you need to use everything that you used before in pre-screening, but you have to add other types of information. And one of this information, for instance, came from pre-employment assessment that, as I told before, is unbiased information. So this step is clearly to help the recruiter making more informed decisions, as you can see a rank of the best candidates for this particular job. And of course, the advantage is leaving bias out and decreasing efficiency, of course.
Great. Yeah, indeed. And it's just like in bracket. When the company was created, and it's important to mention is that obviously candidates are so often evaluated on the basis of CVs, but CVs only tell you one part of the story, and making recruitment more predictive, and making sure that we deeply understand candidates went from obviously evaluating CVs and partnering up with Wonderlic to give us a lot more information and a lot more data about the candidates to be able to get a better discussion with them, and this is what is so important. You have to be able to understand, and personality and obviously other type of tests play an important role in the success of someone in an organization. So obviously you need to have the information in hand as early as possible to make sure that you have all the data to make the perfect hires. So
yes, and another way to get more information, more quality information for the recruiters is trying to analyze the interviews. Sometimes at the initial stage, this can be very time consuming for recruiters. So probably we can automatize this part also. We're talking about initial phases, okay? And in this way, automated interview tools are basically consist of pre-recorded questions that candidates has to answer on video. There are several benefits, but one of them are if you use structural interviews, in these cases, we are avoiding in a way the interview biases. We know that when a recruiter is interviewing someone, there are preconceived beliefs that we put in this interview. Like we're trying to compare with other candidates, we try to confirm some pre-existing bias that we might have. This is natural, this is human. But when you use these structure interviews, you are making the same questions to everybody. And we're having will be more fair to whole candidates, let's say, because you're not putting our personal bias on the interviews. There are some tools that go even further and allow for understand, by listening to the intonation of the person, of the speech, the speed of the speech, or whatever reasons. If the person is lying, if the person is too nervous, if the person is fitted to this job or not. These are also tools that do that. So a bit of question here. Of course, all these technologies of understanding if a person is lying or not are still, of course, dependent of the state of the art on these technologies, okay? But they are already very good. So, of course, it will reduce the times to hire because at the initial stages of the recruitment, recruiters have to interview a lot of persons, and this can help reduce this time, And of course, it improves efficiency.
And obviously, one that is extremely important as well is the candidate experience. I mean, we live in such a modern world where the digital revolution happened and is happening more and more. And making candidates go through video interview makes your organization looks like the most modern out there. And this is really something that is key. Obviously, recruiters can save time, but you need to make sure that you have the best, most efficient recruitment process to offer to your candidates.
Of course. Well, a very popular tool of AI in recruitment now are the recruitment chatbots. And basically, they are empowered by NLP in order to try to mimic human conversational abilities, okay? So they are very good in engaging candidates and assisting them throughout all the pipeline, the recruitment pipeline. They can do things like, for instance, answering questions from the candidates, like, I have doubts about this job, about this application. They can be used also to persuade candidates to stay with the company. They can be also for, and I think this is very important, to when they are connected to an ATS, they can understand that someone has dropped out the application and can inquire, the person why is dropping out. This is very useful information for recruiters and for the organizations. So of course the advantage are nurturing the candidates, and if you nurture the candidates, you've got, of course, we increase the brand reputation of the company, understanding the dropouts, and also you can potentiate efficiency here. Just another note of question, of course, there are tools that are very good doing that. However, NLP is still in research. And you must understand that people are different, as his own idiosyncrasies, and write different way, drive with write with abbreviations, write with, and also that people don't like to talk to a machine in the same way that others. Ones are more formal, others are less formal. So this is a huge, still in research, and I think that when it is mature enough, it will a perfect tool for recruitment.
Interesting. Thanks, Joanna. And it's pretty amazing technology. I mean, it's ongoing process. There's obviously much to be done in this field, but it's already something that is working, and organizations are already proposing this to organizations.
Yes, and very good tools. Yes, already. Now I have two different tools for sourcing, one external and another internal. So the first one is an external talent pool that automates the prospection of passive candidates. Who are these passive candidates? Are candidates that are not actively looking for a job, but are open for new opportunities. So in these technologies, in these tools, there are bots that crawl the web looking for hints. For instance, they go to professional sites like LinkedIn, for instance, and try to see if some individual is putting more skills or more certificates in his page. It might indicate that this person is trying to look for a new job or even a new career. At the same time, if this crawler that goes in the internet knows that the specific organization where this individual works is downsizing or has some stock market fluctuations, probably is going to be downsizing, and probably this individual can leave the company voluntarily or not. So what these tools does is to pick all this data, and here we're talking about big data, this is like tons of data, input that to machine learning, and this algorithm will predict the likelihood of these individuals to change job in the short term. So very interesting because because they do a proactive instead of a reactive sourcing, and is of course is beneficial in order to attract more diverse and more talent in qualified applicants. This is the external, and then another different approach is the internal talent pool. Well, this is based on something a little different. We believe that candidates that apply for a job and were not hired are still very talented. Maybe they were second runners. Maybe they were not exactly perfect fit for this specific job, but they could be a very good fit for another job. So what internal talent pool does is to, when a company wants to post a new opportunity, is going to look at the candidates that were already known. Probably they were already interviewed. We know these candidates, apply some machine learning algorithms and try to see if they match the job requirements. And indeed, we have a prototype in Skill that is being validated. I hope soon it's going to be released in our hub. And all the results that we've got now tend to tell us that it's really effective. We can find talent, very good talent, internally from our prospect candidates. So of course, the advantage will be the reduced time to hire and also increasing the diversity and the qualified applicants.
Interesting. Thanks a lot, Joanna. I see that the time is flying. It's already more than half an hour we've been talking. It's been to me it's a feeling like we've talked only for 3 minutes. But it's such an interesting topic that we could really talk hours about. But maybe you can talk very briefly about improved job description and how this is able to who will be able to help recruiters in the future as well.
I try to be a bit faster. But I really want to like to talk about this because you're prototyping also that at skill. We know for our own experience that some job descriptions have ambiguities and have contradictions. I will tell you very quick one possible contradiction. In a job posting, someone saying that wants someone with a very good knowledge of English and then putting A1. A1 is basic level. So it confuses the candidate, it confuses the algorithm, and it confuses the recruiter. So our prototype, what does using deep NLP is to discover these ambiguities and these contradictions and alert the recruiter to fix them if they want. This is one thing. Another thing, I will skip the second one because we're running out of time. But a third one that is also very interesting is augmented hire. What it is NLP and machine learning. Basically, it takes a job description and analyze that and says, probably if you change this sentence or this word, you can get more talent people and more diverse talents, more females, more whatever it is. It's still in the early steps, but with very good results already. And I think this also will be the future. So I finished now. I hope.
Amazing. No, it's really so interesting. And thanks, Joanna, for sharing all of this. I mean, moving on, maybe, I can ask you, Rosella, more about, improved candidate experience and how is this being in use, and what you can tell us about this.
Yes, Joanna gave us a beautiful overview of the many use cases where machine learning can help in bringing value in the recruiter experience. But machine learning can also bring a lot of value in the candidate experience, which is becoming such a critical component for organizations. Just to mention a couple of examples, artificial intelligence can help improving the job candidate matching and making the process more fair. For example, in a recent study, it has been shown that recruiters spend on average 6 seconds, only 6 seconds looking at resumes. Now, if we can leverage the power of artificial intelligence, we can give the chance to every single candidate to being reviewed, to have the resume being reviewed in their entirety. And furthermore, we can bring more objectivity into the analysis, which means from a candidate experience perspective, more fairness, which is extremely important. And similarly, 52% of job seekers said that the number one frustration during the job search is the lack of response from employers. So that's another example where artificial intelligence can be used to enhance the candidate experience through proactive, contextual, timely, and personalized communication, improving both engagement of the candidate and the company brand. And along the same lines, AI allows to do that 24/7 on a constant way, so that candidates can be engaged in a very consistent way throughout the hiring process. These are just some examples. There is a lot that can still be done, many opportunities, but there is no doubt that artificial intelligence is already playing a critical role in helping companies improving their candidates' experience.
Nice, and seeing those numbers really talks for itself. It's
Right.
81% of job seekers say that employers communicating with them on a continuously basis improve the overall experience. I mean, this is really numbers that people should be aware of, and it's really critical. I have a challenging question for you. I mean, this is a question we sometimes hear. How AI can replace my job? Is this the case? What's gonna happen? I would like to put the topic on the table. I think it's sometimes people think that AI is a taboo because we talk about AI replacing 100 million of jobs in the future. Maybe Rosella, you can talk to us a bit about this, and maybe Joanna can jump in after.
I would love to do that. So something very important to understand is that AI will replace tasks, not jobs. It's a big difference.
Okay.
One cause of the misconception is that a lot of the publications, articles, general media, conversations around the topic have overemphasized the idea of robots taking over the world and replacing all jobs. But what all these conversations forget to mention is a very fundamental concept, which is the difference between what is called weak AI versus strong AI. It's a fundamental difference. Weak AI is the artificial intelligence that we see every day. It's the idea of building one system that is able to do one specific task, one form of intelligence. Netflix recommends movies, Siri understands speech. We don't know how to get the two together and combine the two intelligences. That would be what is called strong artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence, which is basically how the human brain works. So we have many types of intelligence and we're able to combine them. Now, that would be the robots taking over the world. We would need this strong AI in order to talk about robots replacing completely jobs or conquering the world. But we are not there yet. We're not even close. We have no idea how to do that. So that, I think, something important, a very important misconception to clarify.
Of course.
Now, will AI is introducing a significant amount of change, and it is going to be disruptive, but in a very positive way. And the sooner organizations embrace it, the better they will be able to capitalize on AI. I think of it as 20 years ago and what happened with internet. Did internet change the way that we work, that way that we interact together? Absolutely, but it also made our life and our work so much better. So AI is already part of our job and of our life and is augmenting our capabilities. It's replacing the repetitive tasks that do not require human touch, that do not require human interpretation. Those will be replaced by machines so that we can do high value tasks.
Yep.
We can do the best of what we human beings can bring to the table.
And the example, I like the example you gave us. The internet. How many people did say that the internet also could kill so many jobs in the long term. If you look at the amount of jobs that it has created over the decades, is staggering. And the trend is showing that AI is going to be around the same. So it's actually pretty good news for everyone. I see that the time is flying, so I will have to move to my next question. It's important because we want to be giving like constructive feedback to the organization that watched this webinar. I would like you guys to talk to us a bit, on how and what needs to be considered when using AI for hiring. Could you give us some insights on this?
Joanna, would you like to go first since I talked for a long time during the
Go for it, Joanna.
Yeah, why not? I think that as more and more decision processes are making by or automated by AI, I think that one thing that we really need is to ensure the given levels of trust and transparency. People are happy to use technology if they trust the technology. And it is a concern of AI. And AI tries to create a new discipline that is called the responsible AI. So this responsible AI is about a set of principles, let's say, that developers of AI products may follow, but also that people that buy software, like recruitment software, AI-based, also must know. For instance, responsible AI say that all processes that use automated decisions must be reviewed by humans. If the things are like that, we trust more the software, and also that the bias must be understood, must be documented, and must be monitored, and also that AI product solutions and decisions must be transparent. This must be explainable. So if some candidate is rejected, he has the right to know why he was rejected. you know. And this is another discipline from AI that is called transparent AI or explainable AI, you know. And also, AI must comply with ethical norms and must provide means to secure the data and to ensure the privacy of data. So if companies that develop software, AI-based software, comply with that, and if the people that buy this software knows that is complying to that, is a very good thing to consider when using AI. I trust this software, I'm going to use that. Another different thing, very shortly, is a point very important. CEOs and top managers that are going to make the decision of having AI processes must have at least working knowledge of AI, because this way they can be sure that they make the right questions to data science, for instance, and be sure that the company cultures and values are translated into the processes that are being automated by AI. And also they will allow to define the strategy in terms of AI. Probably we don't need AI in all processes of our companies. We must be sure exactly where AI will make value. So this is my two suggestions, and allow now Rosella to go.
I agree with everything you said, so I'm not going to be redundant. Just one comment that I would like to add is that there is a common misconception around AI being a black box. And that is not correct. There is no such a thing like a black box. It's math. In some cases, it might be extremely complicated to understand what's happening, but it's all math with plenty of proofs. Now, the exciting news is that there are many methods and tools out there in the artificial intelligence toolkit that allow to bring interpretation into what's happening within the engine, within the machine. Something that I'm very proud and excited we're working on here at Wonderlic is a package of tools and methods to automatically detect bias and to allow to interpret, understand how the input is connected to the output. And we're tailoring it to the assessment space. But we're not the only one. There are many methods out there. So as Joanna said, it's important to have leadership that is aware of the capabilities of AI to make sure that it's applied where it matters, that it respects, it complies with ethical principles, and that all the tools that can be built or are available to endorse and to enforce, the ethic principles are part of the process.
Okay, thank you. Very, very interesting. My next question is more about, your opinion. If we think about, AI, we think of machine as inherently unbiased and fact-oriented, and in theory they are, The problem is that obviously machine rely on human to provide the facts and the base their decision on. How does that happen? And can you maybe give us a bit of an insight on this?
Yes, absolutely. As Joanna mentioned before, on the one hand, artificial intelligence allows to remove a significant amount of unconscious bias that human beings, just because we are human, we introduce in the process. Yeah. On the other hand, although artificial intelligence is called artificial intelligence, machines are still pretty stupid. They will do what we train them to do. So if we train a model with stupid data, we will build artificial stupidity. And that's why it's very important to know the data that we're using, to make sure that we build cross-functional teams that have both the technical machine learning expertise and the subject matter expertise to understand what data are we using. Is there any variable that could be a proxy of something that is a social inequality, something that would introduce bias? It's important, similarly, to being able to understand what's happening, what the results are telling us. Do they make sense or they don't? And this is related to what I mentioned during the previous questions on the importance of leveraging tools that allow to interpret what the machine learning model is doing, so that we can make sure that there is no bias introduced, that there are no variables that instead of removing social inequalities, they make them worse.
Thank you, Rodela. Obviously, a question we needed to ask and we need to ask is, what is coming next? I mean, what is the future of AI? And can you give us a grasp for where we are going with this?
Yes, as we have more and more data and we have more and more computational power, of course, we expect more sophisticated algorithms, to do things, AI algorithms. And in fact, we have already winners machines. We have machines that beat humans playing chess, or even, for instance, categorizing image, like differentiating between a cat or an elephant or a dog. Machines are doing that better than us. But there is a huge problem because these machines that are being better than us humans are supercomputers that use millions of microprocessors, and the huge tons of data, and that has huge energy consumptions. So this model will not be scalable in 1 decade or probably a bit more. So the problem of AI in the long term, I'm talking about very long term, is efficiency and scalability. So we know that the future of AI will be very tied to the future of computing. Imagine just that our brain is also very sophisticated and also very complex. You just use 20 watts of energy. So, and for instance, for us to know what a cat is, probably we know to see 2 or 3 cats, not 1,000 or 1 trillion cats, So probably the long future will be to have underlying technology that works a bit like brains. And now we are talking a lot about brain computing, biological computing, chemical computing, quantum computing. So by this time, with this underlying technology will be a reality, we don't know nothing about how AI will be. We know nothing about how the world will be, because it would be a great revolution. But until then, we just only expect that AI will be more and more sophisticated and used to make the existing technology every day smarter and smarter. That's, and this, of course, applies also to recruitment.
And if I may add something in the short term of the future, like tomorrow of AI, I think that as evident throughout this webinar, there are some trends, there are some topics that are becoming more and more important. One of them is the ethical AI, the responsible AI, and the ability to interpret. As Joanna pointed out before, the importance of education within the organizations, making sure that leaders understand the value of AI and where to apply it, so that leaders can be empowered to transform their organization into AI-driven organizations. There will be more and more data, which means more scientific progress. And one shift that I think is already happening and will become stronger and stronger is the fact that we are shifting toward an open innovation and open science concept. It used to be that competitive edge was having the data, owning the data, and developing secretly the best algorithm. Those times are ended. It's finished. So the key is to embrace a much more collaborative approach, to be fast, to have very strong AI capabilities within the organizations, so that the organization can move as fast as possible, test things, and push the boundaries of AI in general, and specifically in the HR space, where there are so many opportunities.
Of course, and it's a good question to end. We are running a bit of out of time, but artificial intelligence, as we have seen, is already reshaping recruitment. And looking at the future, maybe if you can give 1 or 2 sentences about this. Looking at the future of AI in recruitment, what can we still expect?
Joanna, you want to go? I know you have.
Oh, that's okay. We are going to expect, as Rossella said, more XAI technology. That is very important for recruitment, as I told you. A thing that is not so high, but it is at the same time more regulations about ethics, also very important. But then look, if you ameliorate the NLP, for instance, look at this virtual assistants that are able to understand and start and continue to ask questions to the candidate, for instance, so more sophisticated chatbots, or for instance, these tools that check the genuineness of the resumes are applicants just lying or not? If NLP is enough mature, you can just go on that. And it's also very important, with the advance with neuroscience, they are tied to artificial intelligence. We can go with new and more sophisticated game assessments, for instance.
And if I may add very quickly a couple of points, I think we have the luxury of living in a world with an abundance of data, which means that we can find insights from many different sources of data. So leveraging different input types, Skilled is already pushing the boundaries on that with video interviews. There are so many other sources of information that we can leverage and integrate in the recruitment process. There are so many insights that we can provide to both candidates and managers that can transform into actions in the organizational effectiveness space. So it's a very, very exciting moment to be part of. There are so many opportunities. And I think we are very lucky to be part of this specific phase of the AI revolution. It's not too early, it's not too late, it's happening now. The possibilities are very true, and they're very practical, and they're very feasible. So it's only up to us to make the most of it and really transform AI into great value for our organizations and for all the hiring managers in the world and for all the candidates. It's very exciting.
Great. Well, thank you a lot, Rosella and Joanna. I mean, you have given us amazing insights about artificial intelligence and how it's applied in recruitment, but not only. I think now it's a bit, the time to wrap up and answer also a question from the attendant and hear what they have to say. I can look throughout the questions. Feel free both to jump in. We have only about 5 minutes left to answer those questions. If I can start with the first one. It's an important one, and that's why I'm picking this one. Is how do candidates feel about artificial intelligence in recruitment? Can you give us more information about this?
How candidates feel about artificial intelligence?
In recruitment?
Yes, I think there is a mix of feelings. There is either a very strong excitement or there is fear because not everyone understands artificial intelligence, and that's understandable. But I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the solutions that use artificial intelligence comply with ethical principles and that we show it to both hiring managers and candidates so that we can earn their trust. If we think about it, we use technologies every day that we don't necessarily understand, that we switch on the light every day, but we are not all electrical engineers. But the fact that there is explanation and regulations and ethics around that allows people to trust the technology. Others, as I mentioned, are very excited. We had a slide on the candidate engagement. It makes a big difference in addressing the needs of candidates, resolving some of the frustration. So I think that the trend in general is that candidates are looking for innovative solutions that make their life, their experience better, and they're happy about seeing when an organization embeds it into their process.
Interesting. And if I can add a couple of words from our experience at Skill, if you look on what is the feeling about candidates regarding artificial intelligence, we tend to receive extremely positive feedback, not really about the artificial intelligence as a whole, but really about the process itself, being so proactive in the process, being able to communicate as fast as possible with the candidates. It's not about artificial intelligence, it's about the experience and the greatness of being so fast, so effective in the process, being able to give feedback in such a proactive manner makes it a lot more attractive for candidates using and for recruitment team using artificial intelligence within the recruitment process.
and it's more objective and more fair, which is something extremely important for candidates to feel that they have gone through a very fair process.
Indeed. Another question we have received is, fast forward 10 years to 2030, how is AI being used to identify and hire your next high potential talent?
That's such a great question.
Let's say it depends. If you're still reaching these points where we don't know, because I've been in a recent conference about this future of computing, and no one of the experts know what happens in 10 years. Don't know what happens in 20 years, but we know if you get the right technology, we know that you don't know anything. So let's assume that is not going to happen. Okay. So I think that you are going. So let me see again. How is AI being used to identify and hire your next potential talent? I think the way you are doing now, but with more sophisticated tools, even more precision, even more explanation, even more cross of knowledge and competencies, more focus on competencies also. So I think that we are going to do that even better, but not to change a lot the process we have now. Of course, more video interview, also more trying to understand the people, the fit to the culture, more like this.
I agree. I think that's actually already feasible. The idea of being able to hire based on potential and not necessarily the skills that a candidate has today and how they fit on the job. We human beings are able to identify the potential of people in many cases. That means that there are some features, some attributes that we can extrapolate from a person resumes or the way that they, how fast they learn or whatever it is that makes us predict their potential for a given job. And that means that we can codify that. If we have the data, we would be able to build a model that does that automatically. The challenge is having the data. I think Joanna or Nikon mentioned that before, being able to collect the data and then train the model is one of the biggest challenges that we face today, and something that is slowing down the progress of AI in the recruitment. So the more we share data and the faster we can get wherever we dream in using AI in our space.
Great. Well, Rosella, Joanna, it's a true inspiration to be working together. The work you are doing, it's extremely impressive, and is helping so much people. It's great to have thought leader in the industry, to be talking to us. And sharing with everyone how AI is changing, answering also tricky questions. This is important. It has been a true pleasure to have been sharing this webinar with you, and thank you for answering all my questions, the tricky ones, the less tricky ones. You have given us a very impressive insights on AI. For the people that obviously we could not answer all the questions, people know how to reach out to us. If you have questions for Rosella, if you have questions for Joanna, feel free to reach out to our team, and we will be more than happy to be answering those. Obviously, thank you both. It has been a true pleasure. At the end, there's a small survey that we will be asking you to fill in. That would be great if you can do it.